We've been on for a minute.
Yeah.
But I'll slate
Oh,
it
have we?
if we're ready.
Damn
Yeah.
it. Again. We're going to have to erase that herpes part.
I think I might do this whole episode in Christopher Walken's voice. So
Wow.
if anybody has got an issue with the host, it's a good show.
Talented.
It just goes to show.
And now she catches more fish than I do, so I've grown to regret that.
That does say a lot. I was like, man, I really hope I'm not overselling this. Oh, well.
Probably, I was very, very fat. I was at least 5 pounds heavier then than I was now.
All right. Welcome. Another edition. Episode 500. Guys, can you believe 500
Man,
episodes?
that's right.
Holy shit.
We have 480. How many in the hopper?
Oh, yeah.
They're coming, guys. They're coming. So rapid fire.
Editing's just backed up. But no, welcome. Another edition of The Crave. So we are joined here by Brett and Laura Gesh, local
Glad
legends.
to have you guys.
Local
Welcome.
legends. Legends in their own mind, anyway. So
We're Facebook
especially.
heroes.
yes, social media giants. Yeah. But no, glad to have you guys. So we've known you guys for probably the better part of what, 4 or 5 years, 6 years now.
Yeah.
Mhm.
We've known this jackwagon for a long time.
Yeah.
This jackwagon being
Yep.
John. Aloysius, the Thictator.
Thictator.
The Thictator.
Thictator.
Eastburn.
Yeah.
Now, one thing that I was talking to Sid, I was talking to your wife. First of all, glad to have the Crave members back together. Nate and I have been on the road. We did 2 episodes on the road in Wisconsin in the Midwest without Johnny, which was tough. It was not the same.
Yeah.
Much better, a lot less editing though. Much less editing.
Yeah.
But we want to say congratulations to you and your new baby.
Thank you.
Your
Yes, sir.
human baby.
Human, yes. Yes. It is possible. But yeah, thank you.
Yeah, you
Yep.
bet, buddy.
Yeah, she's 7 weeks.
But I was-
she's such a
7
nice
weeks.
gal too. Sid is.
Sid is, yes.
She's
Very,
I
very
definitely
surprising.
married up on that one.
You
Good
did
job. Good job.
Another roofie colada.
Yeah.
But I was talking to Sid, and she mentioned that on your driver's license, you have very specifically stated that you want to, upon death, donate your receding hairline to medical research.
This is true.
Did not know that.
This is true. Yes. Yeah. Well, the bar's been raised as far as how young a person can potentially be, and for it to start to leave you. So I've gotten a few pictures have showed up in some industry magazines, archery, and the phone calls started coming in. Doctors were super impressed with just
the uniformity
Yes.
of the recession.
Yes.
I will say I
Yes.
seen their childhood home. There was not a lot of power lines or anything. So
No.
it's kind of weird.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Brother, everybody else, a lot of hair.
Yep.
A lot of
A lot of hair.
Yep.
So-
Yep.
But glad to have
So,
you back, Johnny.
Thanks, buddy. Glad to be back.
Yeah.
For sure.
You want to intro our guests here?
Yes, absolutely. So, Brett, yourself, did a little digging on you.
Okay.
Did not realize you were a competitive eating champion.
Yeah.
And I think everybody's wondering how many bananas you did eat in 10 minutes.
Well,
Seamless.
it was
And did you get water like they do with the hot dogs? or-
No, I did not because I think it was the natural juices.
No additional lubrication.
I think the first 36 were were okay.
Yeah.
After that, to be honest, it was I didn't need potpourri. It had a nice banana-y tinge to it, so it was good.
The odd thing is they weren't even peeled. So.
Did they? You were the guy. That's right. That's right. On ESPN, what was the Ocho?
The Ocho.
Yeah, they
8.
stopped you.
Yeah, the
and-
Ocho.
Yeah, they were like, "Hey, you can take these peels off, man." Right?
Well, it's just time. It really is time. I mean, the time to peel them, and I just wasn't very good at it.
Right.
Yeah, so.
Right. Right. And Laura, excited to hear about your award for most views on YouTube for Barbra Streisand covers.
Oh yeah,
Nice.
all the time. I'm a rock star.
Yeah.
Karaoke queen.
Yeah,
In
she
those
is.
duets, who was doing Neil Diamond's voice?
That's Brett.
Was that Brett?
That's Brett. I tried to keep it on
Brett
the down
Diamond?
low,
Yeah.
but
Cracklin' Rosie, son of a
Yes.
bitch.
Reverend Blue James, Brett.
You know, I was hoping that wouldn't come out. I figured, that,
Yeah.
my stint as a porn star would come out, but I didn't really think that my singing career would come out too.
I realized it was a short time you did that. But,
15 minutes of fame.
Awesome. Glad everybody's
Glad you
here.
guys are here.
Nate, obviously, the man who's never been accused for being early to anything or even on time.
Yeah.
See, most of these are fabricated. That one is not,
I do have a problem with punctuality.
especially with the elk stand. See,
oh,
got to keep it
Here we
going.
go.
ouch.
a lot of mileage on that one.
Recurring bit. We need a bell to ring every
we do,
time
we
that
do, we
comes
do.
up. Something
No.
like that.
It's awesome. I'm glad everybody's here. So, this is a chubby, this is a bloated episode. We got a lot to cover. Might end up being 2 of them. Hey, we just got done eating some elk burgers. So
This is going to be like a 6-beer episode for
Yeah.
you, Brett.
you got your Mercedes parked out there and your driver. I mean, what else do you need?
Yeah.
So,
Rare to go.
but why don't you guys introduce yourselves, because that works out the best. Tell us who you are and what you have brought to the outdoor industry. How you've elevated it to where it is now.
To how I've changed the world of outdoor
Yeah.
something or other. I don't know. I guess I just after the Air Force I started guiding, and that was kind of where it started. And I ran my first bootleg guide trip when I was 15 years old, and got paid $50. Thought I was rich. It was the best thing in the world. Probably cost me $60 to do the trip, but parents paid for that one, so that was good. Had a drift boat before I had a truck to pull it with, and away I went.
Love it.
So,
Attaboy.
and then just got into. Actually, didn't start as no bow hunters in my family, all rifle hunters, no elk hunters, and I just kind of got into it and never looked back.
Are you an Oregon boy?
I am.
Born and raised?
I unfortunately have to say this. I will throw out this disclaimer just because it just sucks. I did find out, and not a lot of people, no one should know this, but I do know where I was conceived. And I was conceived at Hendricks Park on the Mackenzie River. I should not know that. No child should know that.
A very public place.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Especially in the 70s.
different
or
times
60s,
back
yeah,
then.
in early 70s. So
The new beach
yeah.
is farther downstream now.
Yeah. So there was that, and so I was conceived on the Mackenzie River, and but I was actually born in San Luis Obispo, California. My mom was on vacation visiting my grandpa and went into labor, so I actually have a California
Birth certificate.
Yeah.
I
so-
knew it.
Yeah.
I
So
knew it.
yeah.
I could
so
feel it the whole night.
Yeah.
so yes, yeah. So can I leave now?
No.
Yeah,
no,
you're
no.
excused.
Yeah. Great show, guys.
What an asshole! He never told us. Great, Laura. What about you?
I married into the outdoor world. I was not privy to all of the great adventures that it brings. So I, as everybody liked to say, I married a rich fishing guide.
Yeah, right.
So I thought I might as well at least use it to the best of my abilities, and got into the
Loaded.
got into the elk hunting and everything else.
So explain that a little more, because before we got on here and started recording, go into a little more depth to your extent of not being a hunter.
So there again, I am a transplant. So I am from California, born. I know you're surrounded.
And tell them where.
That would be Long Beach, California.
All right, brah.
So yes, hence the reason I'm dark and like the sun, not rain. When I met him, I was actually going to the U of O, getting my journalism degree. So somewhat hippie liberal. I was a vegetarian about 3 months prior to meeting him. I hadn't been a vegetarian my whole life, but going to the U of O, that's what it did. It's
Yeah.
just what it was. It's who you ran with. And I wasn't against hunting. I just didn't know anything about it.
Yeah.
So when I met him, that was his passion. So we decided to give it a whirl. I did cry. I've cried a lot. I've cried a lot. Not just because I hunt with my husband.
Is it when you said I do?
Exactly. That was like 2 minutes before.
She wasn't even pregnant. She wasn't even pregnant.
Yes. So yeah,
So-
so that's kind of my story.
Would somebody please ask her what her first meal was I cooked
Oh.
for her?
Oh,
to
please.
break into.
What was your first meal? That
What was my first meal? This is so nostalgic.
Yeah.
He made me breakfast, and he's like, "Oh yeah,
No.
oh no, it
Dinner-
was
dinner
We were
first.
gonna have burgers for dinner," and he's like, "Yeah, we're just gonna have burgers." And I'm like, "Okay." So I tried it, and I told him I didn't want to try any game meat
Yeah.
because at that point it was killing an animal, which we all eat cow, but I was like, "Oh, this is really good." He's like, "Yeah, that's moose." I'm like, "Awesome. Okay, that wasn't funny, but it was good."
Yeah.
So the next morning, yes, I spent the night.
Oh, no.
You sly dog. Sly dog.
We woke up and he's
Californians.
like, "Yeah, I'm gonna make you steak. It's gonna have filet mignon." And I'm like, "Okay, well, I'm not a big red meat eater. I was just getting back into chicken, so big steps."
How about twice in 10 hours?
Yeah, exactly. So then he's like, "Yeah." He's like, "Was that good?" I'm like, "Yeah, it was pretty good. It's got a little funky taste, but it was good." He's like, "Yeah, that was elk backstrap." I'm like, "Awesome." So at that point, I made him a deal. I said, "I will try anything, but you have to tell me what it is
Before you eat it?
before I eat
Oh,
it.
okay.
I have to know. There's no more."
No.
And from that day on, it was done. It was he converted a vegetarian.
And now you're an archer and you hunt, you fish.
I do. I understand the whole. I understand both sides of it, which kind of
Yeah.
puts me in a different era spectrum of people.
For sure.
Is because I get both ends of it.
Yeah.
So when I talk to people, it's a lot different.
Yeah.
Because I have both perspectives.
Well, I think there's be a lot of people out there too that have been in your position that I don't think would necessarily admit to their prior past.
Correct.
Their past.
Mhm.
You know, I mean, especially being as ingrained in the industry as you are
Right.
now. Most people won't admit that, so that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
That
no,
you do.
I was very proud of where I came from and where I'm at because I can understand a lot of people, which a lot of people can't reach that if they've never been a vegetarian.
Sure.
They don't understand the process of it. So you have to respect everybody. It's taught me respect to everybody.
Yeah.
So yes,
Everybody love everybody.
something like that. I have to live with this guy. Are you kidding
I
me?
had the same theory. It was about a drug addiction, though. I mean,
Yeah.
understand it.
I'll try it once.
Yeah, try it once.
Well, great. Awesome. Great. Glad you guys are here. And there is a laundry list of stuff that we want to ask you and talk to you about. So we'll just dive right in. Want to talk a little bit about being a guide and how I think most people growing up that are in the outdoors, myself included, I remember going to Colorado when I was 16. I grew up in Wisconsin. That was the first time I went elk hunting, and the guide out there, he was a guide, but he just kind of took us out and dropped us off. And anyway, cool guy. He reached out to me a couple years later and said, "Hey, if you're ever interested in coming out here, I'll teach you how to be a guide." And he was pretty upfront. He's like, "Yeah, the money's not great, and the hours suck, and you can't do any. You're basically going to be laid off from most of the spring and summer, but." It's a pretty killer idea, and I thought hard about it, and ultimately didn't do it. But I think most people that are involved in hunting and fishing, and are passionate about it, think about maybe becoming a guide. So wanted to kind of pick your brain a little bit about what it's like and how you got into it, and the ups and downs, and would you do it again? And
I'd say
so how did you get started?
being stubborn.
I mean, you said 15. So 15, somebody's like, "Hey, I don't want to go
Really,
fishing."
the whole background, really, where it really probably all stemmed from was, I remember at the Eugene Boat and Sportsman Show, they brought the world record king. The year that Wes Anderson caught it, 97.8 pounds, or something like that, or 97.7, or whatever it was. And it was there.
Does that
It still stands.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
And they've caught bigger
fish.
fish in the commercial nets and stuff like that, but never hook and line. So anyways, that was always my dream. I seen that, and I'm like, man, I got to go to the Kenai. And then as I was in the 6th grade, and I was actually with Wayne Lawson, who just passed away. It was me and him and his dad went to it, and I remember seeing that thing, just going, man, I got to go. And it never left. I mean, that passion never left. And so, like I said, I barely graduated high school. I was an athlete, but I fished every day. I mean, the way our school worked was if you were gone more than 1 or 2 periods a day, you got a phone call saying that you were gone for the day. Well, once the steelhead and salmon got in the river that last quarter, I was gone every day. I'd take what I did is I went through the first half of the morning. I'd be gone, and then I'd come back at lunch, and then I'd go back, and then go to the afternoon classes, and I'd just switch all the way through.
Yeah.
They almost didn't let me graduate because I was technically only there 3 days the last quarter. Because if you're, like I said, if you're gone more than a couple of periods, you're considered gone. But I think they just wanted me out, and so they let me go. I passed my English class by bringing in Mr. Burke a steelhead or salmon once a week. He told me it didn't matter what happened. I got him a steelhead or salmon once a week. I'd pass. So
That's a good deal.
that was, that happened. Did it.
You just don't see that too much anymore.
It's not, it's kind of like, the college recruiting thing,
You're right, yeah. It's under the table. It's a $100 handshakes type of thing.
It was. So I didn't accept the suit, but so no, it was just a drive. And then I dropped out of college. I went on an athletic scholarship, dropped out, and went guiding. And I started pounding nails, and the contractor actually was having me take his people every Wednesday, and so I started building up a clientele, his subcontractor, stuff like that, and moved on, and then finally I got tired of that, and I just said, I'm going to Alaska. I sold everything I had, except for my truck and my boat and my dog, and I drove to Alaska. And
had you been there before?
Never.
So you, really on a whim? Well, not a whim, but
yeah, I was dating a girl at the time that had been there before, so I grabbed a Milepost magazine, and everybody that advertised in that magazine, I sent them a resume, and I drove up in April, got it there, and I got offered 3 jobs. One was from trout fitters. They wanted me to trout guide. They're very highly if you were to call, say you wanted to fish the upper Kenai for big trout on the Kenai, that's who I'd send you with to this day. That was 23 years ago. The other 2 were a couple of the biggest lodges. They wanted to pay me $50 a day to work 12 hours a day, and that's not counting and this and that, using my own rods, and they're going to pay me $50 a day. And then I had Ken from Ken's Tackle and Jeff Webster, another guide at the time, still a good friend of mine, but they told me, it's like, man, start your own business. And I called my mom, said I needed $2,500. She loaned me $2,500, and I paid her back in 4 days. Back then there were so many people up there at a drift boat, and I'd basically go stay at Fred Meyer's or go to the campgrounds and just clean my boat, and people come up, hey, how's fishing? Good, let's go. And I'd load them up and go. And
so hold on, going back to $2,500. I wanted to ask about, because I think that's one thing that's people are interested in knowing, certification. What's the legalities as far as becoming a guide, especially in Alaska?
The Kenai
what did you need to become a guide?
The Kenai is very strict. It's the whole entire Kenai River is a state park, and there's a federal refuge on it, so you have to have permits to do it. So you have to buy the permit. So non-resident was $1,400 at the time. Then I had to have my insurance, which is basically $1,000, and then all your other stuff that you got to get going. So that was basically it. I already had all the gear. I had to buy some new stuff because it's it's a different game. But so yeah, and then it was just one door opened, and I don't know if you have noticed, but I'm not real shy.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, it's so yeah, I just kind of jumped around and got kind of funny. I got into the guiding big game hunter stuff. My best buddy Mike went to U of I, and then he went to Montana, and he wanted me to go over and he's like, hey man, you're guiding. He goes, you're single, and it's archery season. You want to come bugle elk for me? I was like, sure. I got a pocket full of money. You just got done guiding, sure.
Yeah.
And at that point in my life, I've never had any money in my pocket. But after a summer of guiding and not spending it, so I was like, wow, I'm rich. This is cool. So went down and bugled elk and just had a blast. He's a traditional hunter. Had elk run all over him. Never shot one. Ended up basically finding the bar, got drunk, and was broke again, and so I needed to go back to work. So I ended up grabbing the tool bags, going back to work, and then guiding season away went. And so then I just kind of got to know people, and then actually Scott Haugen from our area. Met him, sat next to him on an airplane, and he goes, "Man, I've quit teaching and I'm writing and doing this stuff, and why don't I come up and do some stuff with you?" And I'm like, "Awesome!" So him and his dad come up, I think they landed like 50 some kings in like 4 days with me on the Kenai, which is just unheard of.
Nice.
And then I ended up with Steve Gruber, and the whole Wolf Creek crowd came up through Scott, and it was just it just escalated. It just kept going and going, and very economically driven.
Yeah.
So when the economics, everybody was spending money, and it was good, and it was great, and yeah. It
Was the culture of being a guide, and is it still that way as far as, and I don't want to paint anybody in a certain light, but is it kind of feast or famine with these guys where they, as fast as they get their money, they're blowing through it because, they're just waiting on next season?
Most of them are young. Most people that get it, it's kind of like you said earlier, it's that young that get it. Unfortunately now, like when I started, there wasn't a lot of guides, and so like a big inspiration for me was Scott Whiteley. He was he worked at Weyerhaeuser. I met him. He's still a great mentor and friend of mine. But he was also a guide, and that's kind of where I seen it. And so back then there wasn't social media. There wasn't any. How you marketed yourself was going and meeting people and shaking their hands. And that's how you marketed yourself. Now, basically what you see. And there again, I'm not trying to pigeonhole anybody, but a lot of these young guys basically have got support from parents. They married well. There's, you look at there's nobody that just goes out and just fights and fights and fights and does everything to go be passionate about it and do it. You just don't see that anymore. I'm sure it happens. It's not fair to say it doesn't happen anymore. But it's just different. You got what I call the visor wearer crowd now, the young guys that are you had the old gruff guys, and now you've got the politically correct, all visors and nice and do this and do that, and so it's
there's probably some feuds between those.
Oh, they don't. They're scared of us.
Yeah.
Well, what about between the old gruffs?
We've all pretty much
step on some toes back in the day. Did you?
Back in the day, yeah, it was. It was full on, especially on the Kenai. It was full on. I've gotten a couple fights on the river with guys back in the day. Yeah,
verbal, physical.
Oh, physical.
Yeah.
I had.
It's a good thing you were on that athletic scholarship.
I was a little ornery.
You, me, chicken fight right now.
When you're
grab a friend.
So one thing one thing you don't know about, a lot of people don't know is I'm tall for a pygmy. And I'm short for a regular man, and it's kind of been my whole life thing, and I've always had big trucks, so obviously I have issues, and
yeah, you do. I've seen your rigs.
Yes, I have issues. So pretty much, like I said, I'm kind of ornery. Had some issues growing up. I've worked through most of them. And so. No,
sounds like it.
I remember one time I had a guy. He was actually a lineman for UW, and that was guiding up there. And just happened to have in my boat. I had mom and dad and 2 kids. Well, yeah, it was they were both varsity wrestlers for the University of Michigan, and that was like in Michigan's heyday.
Yeah.
And there's like a 146 and a 152, and and this guy starts mouthing off, and these kids, you could just see the terror in their mother's eye of like, oh my God, my kids are gonna kill this guy.
Yeah.
And I ended up like, let's go, it's good, guys. Well, he confronted me in the parking lot, and I ended up getting in a fight with him in the parking lot. And so yeah, it was after that, because he was, like I said, he was a lineman for UW. He was a big guy, and so it was kind of funny. So it just kind of the rumor went around. It was like, man, don't mess with him. He doesn't take any crap, And so after that, I really didn't have anybody mess with me at all.
Yeah.
So.
You took the stance
That's a good
to
deal.
find the biggest guy in the room.
I'm probably really good. I hit him first, and really glad he didn't get up.
Yeah.
And when he didn't get up, there's other people around. So otherwise, yeah.
What object did you hit him with?
Yeah, it was. I wasn't gonna win straight up. I was jumping the line. That's for sure.
At least you're honest.
Yeah. So No, it's definitely changed a lot. Now everybody just gets on social media and bashes everybody. So it's just a different
It
game.
doesn't matter what job you're in.
Yeah.
At all, it applies for everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's definitely not the highlight that everybody seems to think.
Yeah.
I mean, being, home with him all the time.
Yeah.
The amount of stress after he gets off the river, people are thinking, oh, that's all he has. But he still has to rig, all of his rods and get all of that ready. And I mean, there's hours spent outside of guiding that people don't see.
Yeah.
So they, glamorize it when I see him super tired. He's up until 11 o'clock midnight getting ready for the next day, and then he's up at 3 o'clock in the morning. So people say that he, well, it's the greatest job in the world. I'd beg to differ. I would take my 9 to 5 all day long over being a guide
Yeah.
with the hours he runs.
It was a little easier when I quit drinking as much.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah.
No, it was it was great, man. I wouldn't change my past and the path that I led. I mean, it led me to where I'm at now, and I'm super happy. But it's I've seen some great things. But yeah, it's just changed a lot. And like on the Kenai, you can fish from 6 to 6. So I pick my clients up between 5 and 5:30, fish till 6, and then you got boat cleaning, you got to cure bait, you got to do all, like she said, so it just makes for long days. And as I got, I actually found a gal, actually it's kind of cool. We're still really good friends. They're again Facebook friends because she lives in Alaska, but she was, at 10 years old, she was my boat cleaner, and that was her first job. And I gave her $20 a day, and then she'd wash my boat. And then when I got actually my new Bowtech boat and all this stuff, I actually saw, I was okay, well now it's got to look nice on the outside too. So she got $30 a day.
Yeah.
And she did a fantastic. I mean, clients would come in and they're like, "Wow, this is nice." And I'm like, "Yeah, I worked really hard on it." So no, it's
So did you guide both Oregon and
Montana.
Montana and Alaska?
Yeah.
At the same. So
Yeah.
how did those runs coincide? Did they at all?
The
Well,
worst.
obviously Montana you were doing. Was that
The-
strictly hunting on
Yeah.
Montana side?
Well, I did the Beaverhead and Big Hole too. I actually took a summer to where I only went to Alaska for like a month, and then I was coming back. But the worst year of my life, I would have to say, was I was in the woods 316 days between Oregon, Alaska, and Montana, and I drove to Alaska. I made the drive to Alaska like one way 29 times. So I've seen it. Yeah, I'll probably
good.
Yeah, I'm really good. If you go say hi to the bear on the third corner on the left, and I mean it's ridiculous. But I did. So Alaska was I'd get up there Memorial Weekend is when I'd start. So I'd get there the week before Memorial Weekend, and then I'd come back end of August, and then I'd go straight into archery because archery elk season in Montana opened Labor Day weekend. So I jumped into that. So I'd go archery elk season. Then I'd come back and do a couple weeks fall salmon down on the South Coast in Oregon. And I'd run back, do rifle deer hunters and elk hunters. And then then I'd go get into duck and goose hunting in Montana. And then I'd jump right into, I'd leave there, then I'd come back to winter steelhead. And I'd basically
Trying to hit the peak seasons.
yeah,
of
I mean,
wherever
just
they're
kind
at.
of hitting and going, and I only did that for 1 year. Like I said, over 300 days, and I mean, I was angry, I was tired, and I
Yeah.
mean, it wasn't fun. I mean, but I did it. I mean,
This is before
I
you
lived
met Laura.
way before I met Laura. Yeah,
Yeah, I was probably in like 8th grade.
So knowing him, he would have still been.
Okay.
I got this boat to clean, okay?
I was his hired
But
boat
lucky
cleaner.
for you.
Exactly. Just
Exo
be
facto.
honest.
what is the statutes? So,
Oh my
yeah.
gosh.
So what's it like? I think as a guy, I'm curious. To the pressure that you feel. And Laura probably now you've seen this for years. You said 13 years. You guys have been together.
14.
So, just the pressure as a guide to, that fear of I don't know if it's fear, but the thought or idea of failure. I'm going to take these guys out. I mean, you know what's going to happen, right? You're going to go out. You're going to have a bad day. Not going to catch anything. You're not going to see anything. So what? How do you prepare for that? I mean, and what do you do to
So
curb that?
to to really be honest about the whole thing,
we'd appreciate it. So
I
would the
really think
listeners.
I would really
As you are a liar.
would think. In order to be a guide, you have to be there's a cockiness, because basically you're thinking you're telling yourself, you're telling everybody around you that I'm good enough, I'm better than you, I can take you and show you and teach you how to do things.
Confident, maybe.
It starts out as cocky.
It's real
you
border-
don't earn
borderline.
it. Yeah,
Yeah.
there's an arrogance with it that,
Yeah.
that unfortunately is part of it. I mean, you have to have that drive. Just like all the employees I've ever hired in Alaska, they were all athletes. I mean, they were all athletes. I wanted people that had that competitive edge, and so yeah, it's there's that, but yeah, I don't know. I mean, you kind of have to start with that, and then, but it's more to the question is you're dealing with people's vacation. You go on a vacation and somebody ruins it for you, you're pissed. I mean, you work your whole. Some people to go to fish the Kenai work your whole life, or it might be a graduation present, or it might be a retirement present, or something. And this is your one shot.
Yep.
Yeah, there's stress. I mean, but you've got to, you got to kind of block that out, because you can't do your best if you're worried about failing. I mean, there's always a fear of failure, but it's got to be out there.
It doesn't. It affects you.
Yeah.
You can tell at night when he's had a bad day fishing.
I'm not even a guide, and I get grumpy when I don't.
Yeah.
Sure.
So I mean, it does.
Yeah.
Well, we've done it at lesser scales with friends and stuff that we've taken out, and people that come from out of state. I mean, Nate and I are both kind of transplants,
Right.
and I've had people come out, and you want to show them a good time, you want to show them animals, and I think that's the idea. At least you want to be able to show them a good experience, right? You want them to be able to go back to wherever they came from and say, hey, I had a good time, I had a great experience.
Yeah.
It was well worth it. In your case, it was well worth the money.
Right.
So
And the wait, like I said, it might be their once in a lifetime trip.
Right.
And that was when you were in places like Montana and Alaska. Those are bucket list ideas.
Sure.
When I got into Montana, it was fly fishing. You had these business guys that were. I didn't deal real well with that crowd, because we dealt with a lot of people that were flying in for the weekend it was right after, and this is going to be very, very cliche-ish, but it's the truth. We got asked this every day. You ever watch the movie, how'd you get into fly fishing? You see the movie The River Runs Through It? Yeah, I've seen it. And so great movie, by the way, but yeah, shadow casting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm one of the best.
Yeah.
I really am. And
You and Mr. Miyagi.
yeah.
It works.
But no, it was you had business guys that would fly in for the weekend, and it became a cool thing to go back to your Monday morning meeting and say, instead of I shot a 72 at Pebble Beach, I caught an 18-inch brown on the beaverhead,
Right.
or in Montana, and so it became a thing, and that's what you fished, was that mentality. So.
Sure.
I didn't get, like most of your salmon fishermen and your steelhead fishermen, they're more blue collar. I mean, let's face it, they're your rougher crowd usually.
Sure.
So.
Did you prefer
So-
those guys?
I do. I like
Yeah.
rednecks. But no, I can't say that. I really enjoyed anybody that enjoyed it.
Yeah.
As long as the hardest thing being a guide for me truly was the hardest thing was people that didn't respect it, whether it would be hunting or fishing or something like that. If they were just there, if I get a kid that comes in and we're fly fishing or we're back bouncing for Kenai Kings, and he's on his iPad, I mean, I'm livid. I'm like,
Sure.
dude, you need to bang. Yeah, I mean, I'd be spanked. I was like,
Yeah.
nah, get it. And so yeah, Jake, he made a rule: no iPods in his boat, because kids put their headphones in and they get
check
bit.
out.
They'd get bit, and he wouldn't hear him yelling at him
Yeah.
and miss fish, so he'd just get pissed. And
And no bananas on the boat either.
None.
Based on your past
yes,
competitive
no
eating history.
bananas. No bananas.
So
It's
do you
a
have?
phobia.
I've heard that. Do you have much opportunity as a guide to get a hold of clients before they come up and try and do anything for them to get them prepared beforehand, or is it mostly people just kind of show up blind and
You're better
gotta roll
off to
with it?
have. I mean, basically you have all kinds, but the guy that's been twice that thinks he knows everything is your biggest nightmare. The guy that shows up is just happy to be there, that you have to teach everything to. those guys are usually legit. I mean, because they're there, and if you're kind of like we mentioned earlier, people like to be taught things, and so if you just get them in the boat and just say here, I mean, kind of, well, you've been in my boat, you know, and it was okay. This is what we're doing. This is how we're doing it. You kind of were able to do because you've done it enough. But like with the guy that we brought was, I spent a lot of time. This is why we're doing this, and try to make them understand why.
Wait. You've. When was the last time you and I fished?
You have never invited me.
And
he actually,
when did you guys go?
And
out?
I've actually asked you.
We were
to,
trying to
I've asked to be a part of your man trip over to the Northeast, and I've never been invited.
That's not true.
Oh, I like the tension.
Is
Yeah,
that
is that?
Oh, you were bringing clients. You took clients down the river.
No. Well, I did
time.
once.
Yes, that time, that year. No, I honestly I don't recall you
Always.
expressing that. But hey, maybe
I
maybe
brought
next
you in
year.
beads, some flies and stuff, hoping,
Yeah.
I kind of fed
Those
a little bit
the
of hope.
steelhead would not eat beads. That size.
It's a myth.
They draw the line at. They draw the line at 14 mil.
Those are the ones. See the stuff I deal
You
with?
got people that insist on bringing their own gear.
You do?
What do you tell them?
Do you yell at them?
No, it depends on what we're after.
Have you seen the movie Sniper?
Oh yeah.
Where Tom Berenger throws the camo out the window?
Yeah.
He's like, oh, this is nice.
Yeah.
Listen, you're on my boat.
So in the Northwest, especially Oregon, like kind of said, we have the big destination groups. Alaska, Montana, Oregon. I fish a lot of locals. Actually, I fish probably 60, 70, 80% of Bay Area people actually come up a lot
Really?
for winter steelhead. The only time I ask people to use solely my gear, you can use whatever, but like if we're side drifting, because if you have different size line, you have different stuff. It really different size. Actually, rod length makes things float different. Everything. So you kind of have to have everything.
And if
tuned
they're
together.
not identical, then you're just asking for
One will
right?
float out. I mean, you end up fishing one rod the whole time.
Explain that to people that are listening.
Well,
just first of all, explain side drifting, because I know we don't know, and it took me a while to figure it out, because growing up in the Midwest, which we got a lot of listeners from the Midwest and the East Coast, and
right.
that just doesn't.
So side
exist.
drifting is basically you take our drift boats and the Mackenzie River drift boats and float down, and you cast up
Nice plug.
11 o'clock, and they come down, and the key is to kind of keep them just slightly upriver. If they're down, you miss a lot of bites. Up here, they kind of get stuck because they're facing up, and you whack them. Whacking being hooking.
Okay. Thank you. Explain the river water system, right?
Yeah. And so yeah, it's just you just float down, and you have two people in the boat, and you just have more together. And if you have, say, you have 10-pound line on main line on one rod and 20-pound on the other, well, 20-pound is just going to float out a lot faster because of the bigger diameter.
Right.
So you have to match everything up, and so you can get those two working together. And then so that's kind of the. Trolling, it definitely is a lot easier if I have all my own stuff, because I can just come in and I know how it all works. I know what to expect, and you don't know if Uncle Bob has kept the same line on for the last 30 years or whatever. So.
Yeah.
Well, then you get the people that get mad at him because they're not catching anything using their stuff.
Right. Well, yeah.
He-
Okay.
you
So
know,
how do you deal with
He li-
these?
he lives here. I
asshole
mean,
clients.
after
So it started at such a young age. Everybody that got my boat would get in there and look at me and go, "Well, I've fished longer than you." It's like, yeah, but you just wrote me a $200 check to be in my boat.
Right.
So you want to listen to me. As I got older,
Grayer.
a few more grayer, rounder helped too.
So this is
This-
all for the job.
It is.
Okay.
You want to be more relatable.
I actually have a really good 6-pack. It's
Right.
just under the fat.
It's a deep core.
Yeah, I
Right.
mean it's there, and
No, that makes sense though. Ageism.
yeah,
Sure.
and so it's almost racial. It's when you're young and people pick on you.
Yeah.
It's not good.
Yeah.
We should all get along.
Yeah.
And so these guys, they would, but they would for a long time. And like she was saying, the point she was getting to was, the guys get in there and you say, do this or do that and do this or do that, and they just think that they're like, no, that's not how we do it when we're fishing for walleye. Okay, well, dude, we're fishing for salmon or fishing for steelhead or what,
Right.
Yeah, it's walleye fishermen are pretty good from what I gather. Walleye fishermen are actually pretty good salmon fishermen because they let them eat. Bass fishermen are terrible, and steelhead fishermen are terrible salmon fishermen because as soon as it hits, they want to hit it. No, it's there comes a point to where you can lead the horse to water. If people are just got their mind set up that they're going to do it their way, then they do it their way. And I used to get pissed when I first got started. I used to get pissed. People would lose fish, or they'd drop the rod, or do something stupid.
Would you yell at them?
I did, and I was actually I was an ass, and I really was. I was a terrible guide.
Did you ever make one of your clients cry?
Me. Every time I go.
I did. I have made the lady cry in the middle of fighting a fish.
Why are you even here?
While fighting a fish. I felt really bad for the lady.
Sounds like it.
I mean, yeah, I'm.
He gets caught up in the moment. It's the heat
I get excited,
of the moment.
and
He's
but
very
I
excited.
had so I was my second year in Alaska.
Sounds like you're a great person to go out with.
Yeah,
We'll get some good plugs in.
Exactly. So it'd be my sophomore season in Alaska. I had a guy, and anybody that knows of anything guiding in the Northwest will know the name Hal Borg. Hal Borg is a legend. He's from Brookings. He's never had a motor on his boat once. He does halibut trips out of his drift boat and cook inlet. He is the man. He rows a boat. He's retired now. Hal comes up to me, and like I said, everybody. I mean, I remember him on the cover of STS when I was a kid, and this and that. And here's Hal, and he comes up to me and goes, "Oh, you're Brett, right?" And I'm like, "Yeah, and I'm just really amazed that he knows who I am, And he goes, I want to tell you something. He goes, he goes, take this just from an old man. He goes, but you're probably the best, most natural fisherman I've ever seen come up here. He goes, you've only been here 2 years. He goes, and you're killing it. And I mean, my head's this big, and I'm like, yeah, that's Hal Borg talking to me. And he goes, but I just want to say that you're probably the worst guide I've ever seen in my life. And I was just gut shot. And I go, what do you mean? He goes, you need to remember, this isn't rocket science. He goes, you are taking rocket scientists fishing. He goes, why? He said, they already feel bad enough for losing that fish. He goes, why are you making it worse? He goes, your job's to get him another one. He said, when you can smile, shake their hand, and say, let's get another one. And he goes, that's when you'll become a good guide. And when you have somebody of that caliber take the time to say something like that to you, you listen. And that really, it was one of the life-changing moments in my life. So I love Hal.
But that's good. That's good advice, right?
Yeah, 100%.
So did you change after that?
I did.
Be less of an asshole?
I tried. She probably won't agree, but she didn't know me then either. But
so, Laura, do you go out with him on guided fish trips, or do you help out? I mean,
I will say, if you see pictures of me in a boat, you should call him and book a trip.
Oh yeah.
Because I go catching.
You go.
Yeah.
You're a catcher.
I am a catcher.
Nice.
Yes, because I'm not big into the rain. Sitting in a boat with him
It's
for
gonna be
like
a
8
shame,
hours
right?
is a long day.
Yeah.
But it's fun. Fishing isn't my.
She her first year married, she actually graduated college, didn't have a job. Or you had a job, but you quit, so you can come to Alaska.
I quit.
And she quit.
My bad.
She quit another one to go hunting one time, but that's another story.
But
But
a really
we
good
love her.
job. Oh.
Yeah, but she
I thought I'd
She
go
was up
see
there
what
for the
Alaska
yeah,
was.
and you got to fish with me one day. The rest of the time I had to send her with my other guides because I was booked. And so yeah, she caught a 70-pounder.
Wow.
And
Then we were in the slough. He was out fishing, and I had no idea what I was doing, and I caught a fish, and I'm like,
sockeye were just in thick. I mean,
Oh.
like black.
And he left me a fishing rod. He's like, fish. I'm like, okay. So I caught one, and then I didn't know what to do with it.
Right.
So I'd reel it in, and then I'd let it swim back out. And I'd reel it back in. That was like a 4-hour process for this
So
poor fish.
so
He's like,
my neighbor Rick came out.
do you need help? I'm like, yeah. I
And
need help.
so
This is
so,
coming from one of the better guides on the river. Here's his wife.
so
I have no
so I
idea.
pull in with my clients, and here she is, and sockeye fishing, everybody hears the sockeye flop. You know, you sit there and you flop and you just
Floss.
Yeah.
Oh,
That's
I
what you're
call
doing.
it hi-ya fishing.
And so here is my college-educated, hot young wife in a pair of rubber boots, homie shorts that past her knees, and were you in a sports bra? In a sports bra in Alaska, and she's got and she's using a Lamiglass Kenai King, 40-pound Maxima,
Yeah.
and she's got the drag trench, and she's two-handed just and just.
Oh, I
I mean,
figured out if I could just get them on land without touching them, it
Yeah.
was way easier.
And it's a 6-foot lip, and she would sit there and she'd hook him, she'd hit him with that 40-pound and just go, 10-pound sockeye, 6-pound sockeye, and just launching him over the top of her. Like,
Best
yeah.
catching ever. He's like, "Do you want to go kingfishing?" No.
How would I leave this?
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
what's it like, Laura? What's it like living with a guide? I mean, you kind of made mention the late hours and the
It's
early up.
difficult. I mean, he's gone a lot. I mean, it's not all glamour by any means. Because I work 9 to 5, so I have a regular job. So most people have weekends open.
Right.
So he guides on the weekends, and he's out of town a lot. If you have to be pretty independent. I can honestly say that he's made me more independent because of that. Because if I can't do my own
Well,
things.
all those trips I see on Instagram and Facebook of you going up to Mount Pisgah, which is a local mountain around here,
Right.
that you go, he's never there.
He is there rarely.
Is that because of the exercise or just because he's guiding?
He's eating bananas.
He's eating bananas? Yeah.
He's going for the competitive look. No, I mean, in all this, he's a master of a lot. He's doing real estate now.
Yes.
So a lot of times he gets phone calls, and
Sure.
I'm just, we're just an odd couple. We're very independent. We do our own things. I like hiking. I like doing all that. So he can go or not go, and he's the same thing with me. I mean, if he wants to go fishing and I don't want to go, go. It's you have to have that give and take.
Right.
But I wouldn't change it. I wouldn't. The first 11 years we were married, he went to Alaska for 3 months every summer.
Oh, yeah.
When he decided he wasn't, I thought I was gonna cry because I'm like, what am I gonna do with you home for 3 months?
You're gonna drive me crazy.
Yeah, exactly. So
gotta
I mean,
fire the
it'll
pool
get to the
boy.
point where I'm like, don't you? Isn't fishing good somewhere? Because you gotta go. So yeah, it's
All right.
not bad.
So what advice would you give young Jimmy Lipper that's out there? He's 15, just borrowed $2,500 from his parents. What advice would you give him or her about guiding? Do it,
I
don't
would say,
do it.
I'd say put it in the money.
Find
or put it in the
someone-
bank.
Find a spouse that's rich.
Yeah. Prime example. One of my best friends, little Joe. I want to be a guide. It's like, okay, Joe, I will hire you in Alaska as soon as you learn a trade. And he was working at Lance Electric at the time, and I said, you get a journeyman's card, and I will give you a job tomorrow. So, but I said, you got to do that. I said, because at this point, I was 30-some years old, and I'm deep. There's no way I can get out of guiding at that point. Not that I wanted to, but to try to and see the change of the regulations and everything else strictening up to where I was running 6-8 boats a day to seeing it dwindle. Not that the business was dwindling. It was just that the fish were dwindling, and so I was necking down with that.
So, what? Explain that. What was going on?
Just overuse, really. I mean, as far as everybody likes to blame everybody else, it was all user groups were overusing the river. Mismanagement, Fish and Game was allowing it to happen. They should have put their foot down and said, no, limit the commercial. Not no, but limit the commercial fishing. The Kenai is a great catch and release fishery. If they would let it, I can sell catch and release trips all day long, as long as people know that's what to expect. You get there and you give them a false hope that they're going to be able to do something, and then they can't. Then it gets ruined.
But it's also overcrowding too of guides. They should have limited the amount of guides on each river.
Yeah.
You allow another 100 guides every summer. That's another 8 fish per boat that
And-
are
Yeah.
not making it.
And one
That's a
thing,
lot.
some of the old guys that were, there, Captain Bly, his favorite saying was, and he's passed away now, but his favorite saying is, I don't have to have good guides. I don't have to pay a lot of money for my guides because all I got to do is have people in the boat because they're going to come to the Kenai. He goes, I can get people skunked for 20 years
Really?
and still make a ton of money. And he did. He wasn't lying. He did. And you go down, you got 500 guides on the Kenai, and you got 10 of them that are good. You got another 50 that are okay. And then you got the rest. And they just follow us around.
Really?
I mean, it was I was pretty blessed to me and that river we just got along. I mean, I liked it a lot.
Yeah.
I was pretty good at it. And
And you're done. You don't.
no, I sold it. I still book it for people, more of a booking agency style. But I sold all my Alaska business.
Yeah. How come? For that reason?
Yeah, it was very, very lucrative, like I said, when I was running a lot of boats. And then when the market crashed, the bulk of my clientele was Oregon construction workers that were coming up there. And so, we're talking wholesale houses and, all these companies. Well, they were selfish. They'd rather pay their house payment instead of mine. I mean, they're
Ridiculous.
selfish. Yeah, it's dumb. And, but no, it was that. It was, I mean, let's face it, to be away from her, there had to be a reason. And the last summer that I was up there, I went from making $80,000 in July to $8,000.
Really?
Yeah.
That big of a decline?
Yeah.
Wow.
To where I was running one boat and only running, and not running every day.
Almost wasn't cost effective for him to go up by the time
Right.
he went up
And
there.
the last couple of years truly were basically to say goodbye to my clients.
Yeah.
Or just tell them, hey, we're changing things up or this or that. And I can still go up. I can still go get licensed and I can still do it. And I could call them tomorrow and if I wanted to work for somebody else. And I could literally just say, hey, give me your, release a boat. And so it's still there and we've talked about it, but I just don't, honestly. So to the guy that wants to get into the question of the guy that wants to get into guiding. Okay. So I was in Alaska for 21 years. So for 21 years, I never went backpacking. I never went camping other than fish camp. I never got to roast a s'more around a lake. I never got to do that stuff for 21 years. That's what you're living it, but you're in a boat, you're going, you're not, you don't get to go relax with your family like you probably did for the 4th of July weekend, went over and did a barbecue and did this. There is not that. I mean, if you have time, you're going in and you're respooling reels. Especially when you're running multiple boats. And I took care of everything. I didn't micromanage. I just did it. And so I cured all the bait for all my guys. And it's so to be able to, what was funny was the irony of it. A few years back, I actually caught a winter steelhead. For me, it was a big deal for me to be able to catch one.
Yeah.
And the first one that I caught in like 8 years happened to be a 30-pound wild steelhead.
Wow.
And it was 24 3/4 by 42 3/4. So it was a giant. And how we got it was I actually hooked it, and I was handing it off to we were fishing on my sled and we were side drifting, and I handed it off to one of my buddies, and he goes, we've already caught like 6 or 8. He goes, it was Randy, and I go, here, who wants it? And they're like, hey, Brett, how long has it been since you caught one? And I was like, I don't know, 5, 6, 7 years.
Yeah.
And they're like, why don't you land this one? So I did, and it just happened to be a giant one.
Yeah.
So
Cool.
So no, I just don't. You don't fish. So when I sold Alaska, my first summer here, my big plan, my big trip, for 21 years was, I actually had Mike build me a 7-foot 3 weight, and I was going to go backpacking. I was going to go through the North Fork of the John Day Wilderness and fish all the way through that, and then I was going to go into the Eagle Caps and fish all that, scouting for elk, doing whatever, but fishing, and that was my plan. And kind of the eat what you catch type scenario. 3 days before I'm getting ready to leave, they shut every river in Eastern Oregon off because of the drought. so I didn't get to go.
Oh.
Yeah.
But so
Bummer.
what I'm saying though is that's what I was missing out on was the camping trips and the backtrack trips and going.
Yeah.
I left the Kenai and the only thing I wanted to do is go to a creek
Catch
by
a
myself
4-inch
and catch fish on that on a
trout.
grasshopper.
Yeah.
I mean, so
Yeah.
that's the allure. I mean,
Sure.
it's
So you'd say be careful what you wish for, because it's probably not as glamorous as you think.
and don't do it half-ass. If you're
Yeah.
gonna do it, I mean, dive into it.
Right.
You know, I mean, and just
Make
swing.
it a profession.
Yeah, and be professional. Swing for the fences. You know, one thing it taught me, I'm still not very good at is, clean boats. Show up, be professional. It's, like I said, kind of the old druff type guys showed up and they looked like hell. Well, now you don't. You get in and you look nice, and because you have professionals in your boat, and you have,
Right.
and you want to set a precedence. So
So have you seen the clientele change too from
yes. So
obviously more upscale businessmen now?
well,
Is it because have the prices fluctuated to the point where
the prices really haven't in the guiding world really have not gone up in 20 years, hardly at all.
sounds like they should?
Yeah, but
Maybe. Yeah.
but maybe we were just charging too much in the beginning.
Yeah. There you go.
No, and it has. So when I first started, when we were kids, everything else, what everybody, and John will contest to this, everybody you knew, or at least every other person you knew, had a boat. And they could go down and they could go catch fish.
Mm-hmm.
There was enough fish around and a few enough people after them that you could go get them. And so people were like, well, I'm not going to go spend back then, probably $100 a seat back then. And we're at 200 now.
For a full day.
Yeah. And so I'm not going to pay $100 to go in the boat, to hire a guide and this and that, blah, blah, blah. Well, so now you figured out, okay, so if you want to go get, let's just make it simple. You want to go steelhead fishing. You're going to have a $10,000 drift boat, which is not an expensive drift boat in this day and age. A new one is $8 to $12,000 probably, even up to 20 if you get a Pravati or whatever.
And for people that are listening, again, if you're not from the Pacific Northwest or the West, for the most part,
well,
a drift boat is it's one of those like Viking-looking.
Okay, well let's
Kinda
let's
looks
go
like a banana
river
boat.
boats. It looks like a banana.
So let's put it into perspective of that. Okay, walleye fisherman.
Yeah,
Okay, you want to go walleye fishing.
I do.
Okay, so if you want to go walleye fishing, what's it going to take you to start? Okay, so for you to take your boys and you're going to go out. So how many rods are you going to have? Okay, 10 for 2 or 3 of you. The tackle that goes with it, the boat to get you out there, all the electronics, all the stuff, everything you do. So realistically, you could be into this whole thing before you start, and then, your Prius you're driving, it ain't going to work. You got to have a diesel pickup or whatever to pull it. So you had to upgrade that. So you're into this thing $50,000 before you even hit the water. How many guided trips can you go on for that? And not only that, did you just bought all that stuff? Do you know where the hell you're going on the lake? Mm-hmm. Well, if you go with a guide, chances are you're probably going to catch something. Not always, but you got a really good shot. You walk in to a guy that's got all the stuff and who should know what he's doing. He's told you he knows what he's doing, and you're going to go with him. And then when it's done, you're going to leave with a bag of fish and not have to clean up anything. You're going to sit back and be able to drink beer, pop, whatever you want to do and do your thing. So what the biggest change is those guys back then, I think now people's time is worth more money to them. So if they're going to take time away from their everyday and their family and this and that and go fishing, $200 2 or 3 times a year is really easy compared to having to store it, having to clean it, having to do all this stuff. So it's kind of that mentality has changed. It's more PR okay to be with a guide at this. It's almost cool to say, yeah, I went with, Shane Groshon, or I went with this guy or this guy, It's almost kind of cool to say that. It's never cool to say you went with me, but those other guys are cool. But
He was a real jerk.
He made me cry.
He kept making fun of me.
Made me
Yeah.
cry.
so yeah, it's I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, when I was man, I was just graduated high school and had an athletic scholarship. Didn't know they did that for shuffleboard, but hey, you
I was
know,
gonna say, was it bananas?
I had a shuffleboarder's body, and scouts sought me out. But no, I was super intrigued with the fly fishing guide, and so I same deal. Went to the sportsman show, talked to some people there. A couple of people told me, hey, if you want to kind of get ahead of the game, people, I think probably more in the fly fishing industry, because of the kind of people you were guiding, you got to get OVRS endorsed. You got to get endorsed by one of those guiding schools. So I started doing the research there, and the classes that they were teaching, they had the outlines, like what they were teaching. This hour we're teaching, how to tie blood knots, how to tie your own leaders, how to spool a reel, and how to tie flies, how to row a boat. And I'm thinking, I know they wanted like $7,000 for this week-long course. I'm thinking, I know all this stuff already. Why do I need to pay $7,000? But it just boiled down to my dad just saying exactly what you said, because I had the people aspect down. I can go hang out with just about anybody, having a good time. But it was,
when are you gonna do that with me?
Exactly. It's just about anybody. Just about anybody.
Just about.
You're checking a lot of boxes here on the reasons why we wouldn't do that. But
We'll get back to you.
but it came down to exactly what you said. Just time to do that, the stuff that you enjoy on your own, your own time, and not get burnt out on it. Because I'd get, like, from what you just described, yeah, I'd love to fish as that much, but it's different, because it's
So you're not fishing.
exactly, it's a job, and I know I would get burnt out on it. I think it definitely takes a special person, and I have a lot of respect for people that do it successfully.
Special.
Yes, yeah. You get all the good parking spots at the boat launches.
Yeah, he does. This spot reserved for Brett.
Yeah.
And jail cells.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nate's got one more question for you about monetary concerns,
Monetary.
tips.
Oh, yeah. So, how do you approach gratuity when you're on the water? I mean, do you expect
usually
it, or
the
is it
good
just
guys,
nice
the
when
good
it
guys
comes
get
and
tipped. I've never.
You get a reel in a fish once in a while.
Yeah.
That's
Here's
your
a tip. Stop being an asshole.
Actually, a great question. You get asked that a lot. I have always based it off of, if you have a, and this is going to sound bad, but I mean, if you got some guy that is wealthy and this and that and blah, 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 and he feels that he needs to, you should never feel that you have to tip a guide. He is getting paid very well, especially if he owns his own business and this and that, and we charge well. I mean, it's, but if you feel that he's went above and beyond, he or she, let's be politically correct, 'cause there are some very good female guides now. If you think they've went above and beyond, then it's great. If I was to average, like if I go, being a guide, when I go with people, if they do a really good job, I'll tip them $50 to $100 on the trip. If they're going to do it for a living. I know what goes into it. A lot of people will tip, $20 or $30 for a day, which is a great. I mean, if you averaged a $20 or $30 tip every day from every client, it would add up really well. There's times that you get back and people don't tip you, and a lot that would tip you huge if they knew they were supposed to, or not that they're supposed to, that if they knew that it was kind of customary. So it really does. I just don't. The guy that brings up his 4 kids and wife and everything comes to Alaska. Well, he's already shelled out $6,000 a piece to be there, and so that guy throws you 10 or 20 bones. Might be a lot, because look at what he's already spent.
Sure.
So really, Nate, that's really a hard one, and I don't think that anybody should ever feel that they have to, because not every guide every day deserves it.
I'm writing this down.
And so yeah, it's always an uncomfortable question to be asked, especially on what's normal. What's normal? Well, there is no normalcy. It's you know, what do you get? So 10% on a 200 is $20. Well, yeah, $20, you know, 40, you know, figure it that way. So
Sure.
so yeah,
Well, you're in the service industry. I mean, one would think that would be something people would be expected
and most
to.
people do. Like I said, especially in Alaska, you would get a lot of people that would show up. Not me, really, but was I had the same people every year pretty much that would come to Alaska. Every once in a while, I would do a trip for a lodge or something like that, and sometimes those people would get into it. So what are we fishing for today? You're on the Kenai peak king season. You're just like, kings? Oh,
Bram.
nice.
Bluegill.
Yeah. Do you have a king stamp? What is that? It comes with your fishing license. You don't have those? No, ma'am. No,
No.
sir. Yeah. So
I'm super. Okay, one more question. What's the weirdest thing that's ever happened to you on the river while guiding? Most bizarre.
is this G-rated?
You can. This can be
you
whatever.
can. I mean, this is. You're
Open
putting yourself
forum.
out there, so.
We're
Laura's shaking her head.
we're
saying,
the
You don't
smart.
dare tell that story. I swear to God.
You're both familiar with the story, I see.
She's like, I don't know.
Today. Well, he was conceived,
That's right.
so something weird
I know
happened.
I was thinking about that. Hendricks Park, there's probably only pavement and
Grass.
a porta potty there. So I'm doing the
This
math.
is my mom you're talking about.
She's
Speak out.
she
She's
raised
amazing.
she raised you. She's a good woman.
Yeah, I mean, I've done it for so long. There's just been a lot of things. I've had a honeymoon couple in Montana. A gal was sitting in the back, younger. He was actually a dentist, young, physically fit, good-looking guy like myself. And
Right. Sure.
and then good-looking gal, and she's like, "Hey, Brett." I'm like, "Yeah." And you've been in Dillon. You've floated through the there, I think. haven't you?
I know exactly where you're at.
Yeah, so we're
haven't
floating
floated.
down by the grasshopper, and there's those cliffs and stuff right there. She's like, "Hey, Brett," she goes, "You ever had anybody just tell you to pull over and go have sex up on one of these mountains?" Like, and her husband kind of gets a smile, you know, he's up front because we've got the pram, you know, and he just gets a smile. I was like, "No, ma'am, I haven't." She goes, "Pull this son of a bitch over." So I pull it over and I stop, and they start crawling out of the boat and walking up the hill, and so I start following them. She's like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "Well, I got your camera. It's your honeymoon." She's like, "No, you're staying here." I'm like, "Okay." So I went fishing a little bit.
I expect a tip.
Yeah. So
Definitely on that one.
no, there's stuff, but yeah, that was.
Wow, I wasn't expecting.
So that was that's
pretty weird.
That's kind of a fun one.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Had
We can't use it, but we appreciate you.
have had almost ran over a brown bear in Alaska on my boat. It was silver fishing, and we actually thought it was a moose swimming across the river, and we were running up. It was dark. It was probably 1 o'clock in the morning, and it was still it's Alaska, so it was still kind of daylight, and we could see him. And I go running up there, and I had Robin, my stepdad. He was a great big guy, and he jumps up on the bow to go up and see it. And I just kind of started coasting up to it, and I got from about me to the front and to where I stopped, and all of a sudden the bear touches feet down and stands up. Does one of these, so yeah, it's full reverse, like oh. So it takes off. So I mean,
Yeah.
You encounter bears quite a bit up there on the river.
not a lot.
I mean, I'm sure you see them a lot. but
yeah,
as far as close encounters.
The last few years, there was more for sure. They when I first started, they allowed hunting on the peninsula. Then they shut it off, and then they were like, "God, we don't have any moose or caribou anymore." Well, then they figured out that there was I want to say there was something ridiculous, like 3 bears per mile on the Kenai Peninsula. I mean, it was some stupid ridiculous number like that.
Wow.
And so yeah, it was. So now they're hunting them on the peninsula again. So, but yeah.
Cool. Well, I think we'll do. We'll take a break here, refuel, and then we'll jump back in.
Yep.
I think everybody
Check batteries.
could use a quick potty break. But let's do before we cut this one off. Let's do would you rather, because I think it applies to this first part more than it does our second part of the episode. So
Okay.
Okay.
We can do
Nader, take it.
I got to refresh my memory here.
You want your glasses?
I might.
What's your
see.
specs?
No, we're all right. So here's a would you rather for the table, I guess. Would you rather work a desk job that allowed you to take 2 weeks vacation and basically money's not an object. You get 2 weeks to book and go on the hunting and fishing trip, destination, whatever you want. Or would you work in the outdoor industry and just have to be a weekend warrior essentially on your own time as far as pursuing your own adventures in the outdoors?
But you're outdoors all the time.
Right.
Well, but you said outdoor industry. Is that considered being a guide?
Yeah. Yeah, guide.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I wouldn't change my life being a guide for anything. I'm happy where I'm at. Because before I got into guiding, I was fortunate enough to be very successful hunting and fishing, and so I just got to the point where I really enjoyed watching other people. As far as being in the industry, if I wasn't a guide and just in it, I would definitely, I'd want the most time off I could to be out.
Yeah. Laura?
Sure.
100% desk job.
Yeah.
It's him and I are a yin and yang. It's I like to know exactly where my checks are coming from,
Yeah.
and I know guaranteed. When I got hired on at this position, one of the things is that I had to have 2 weeks off in September, or I wouldn't leave my prior job. So that was part of my stipulations, and they were like, "Wow," and I said, "Well, it is what it is. You asked me."
Yeah.
So. But it's different. It's like I said, it's different. It's feast or famine with him, but I know every 2 weeks where my check's coming from. I know exactly what it is. So
And
it's
she-
a stability.
And she
Yeah.
schedules them. She's like, okay, I've got this and this.
Yeah.
You know?
So yeah, mine's a desk job. I get a week straight in the woods, 2 weeks straight in the woods.
Yeah. Well, there's advantage to that too, because for that 2 weeks you can just check out.
Exactly.
If you're working for yourself, whether it's in the outdoors or
Cell phones,
anything.
Cell phones suck, and the fact
Yes.
that when they
Yeah.
get
The phone could always
and they're
ring.
getting so much better in the middle of the wilderness. I
Yeah.
have cell service.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That sucks.
I'm seeing that too.
I used
Yeah.
to
Just in the
not.
last couple years.
Yeah.
Almost
I used to be able to
very-
go get away in Eastern Oregon and
Yeah.
and check
a
out.
lot less dark zones, I guess, or,
Yeah.
or dead zones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you can do 2 weeks? You're an IT
Yeah, I
professional.
mean,
you can't get away from it.
Yeah. I don't do that currently, so it's tough to take that route. But that would be nice to just be able to turn it off for 2 weeks and know that you don't have
Yeah.
anything else to worry about.
Yeah.
That would be nice.
Yeah. John?
I don't like either of these choices.
Okay,
See?
so win the lottery.
About
So I'm assuming
yeah.
you can still be a weekend warrior with your 2 weeks vacation
sure.
too.
You still
So
get out. Get out.
yeah, so
Yeah.
it's not like you're
I don't think
limiting
it's not
yourself
enough.
to 1 2 week
It's not
period.
enough.
This is the portion of the episode
Yeah, I'm
where
gonna-
John takes 7
This
minutes
is-
to decide.
Oh, I've got like,
can't do
gosh.
it.
Cue the Jeopardy music. Yeah, I guess I'd just be the weekend warrior, probably. No, I'm gonna take. You need at least a couple. No, I'll do the weekend warrior.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're going to live it.
See, this is how you ended up with trout.
Yep.
Yeah.
Was
This
that
is-
right there? That's how you ended up with trout.
No, I had.
It's America's fish, okay?
It's all about numbers, quantity.
All right. Thanks for listening. We're
But you
going to
didn't- you
jump
didn't-
back in.
Well, you didn't get yours.
I know. I was going to slide
Yeah.
it in. Yeah. Son of a bitch. Because I didn't really decide. So I was laid off 6-8 months ago, and I was working a desk job, which got plenty of time off. Was good. But I got to say, living out here in the sticks, I really enjoy being outside every day. I love it. And granted, it is spring, summertime right now, so that is something to do with it. But man, I do enjoy being outside. I think I'd probably go that. I'd go that route. I'd put me in the outdoors. I'll take my weekends, hunting local, fishing local stuff, and I'll be at peace. So, all right, we'll be back
Great.